Before we jump into the lesson, let's watch a clip from Sacred Games.
कभी कभी लगता है कि अपुन ही भगवान है।
The clip is dramatic, it's iconic, and honestly, it reflects something very real about design. There comes a moment in every designer's journey when confidence quietly transforms into certainty, and certainty is dangerous. When we start believing we fully understand our users without asking, observing, or validating, design stops being a service and starts becoming self-expression. Beautiful maybe, but disconnected, this is the exact moment when empathy quietly dies. And when empathy dies, design stops serving people. Today, I want to explore what happens when designers fall into this trap and how to avoid it. You know, there's a subtle shift that happens in our careers. In the beginning, we're curious, we question everything. As we grow, we learn patterns, frameworks, principles, and best practices. But somewhere along the way, knowledge transforms into ego. That's the ego trap in design. The moment when we stop listening, we begin to believe we've seen everything, solved everything, understood everything, that we already know what users want, that our instincts are enough. Think about it. When was the last time you knew you were right and research proved you wrong? That sting you feel, that's ego being challenged. But that's also the exact moment when growth begins. This is a reminder. Expertise is valuable, but ego is blinding. The moment you stop questioning, design stops evolving. Let's expand this idea. That Sacred Games line captures a feeling many designers experience. It's the illusion of total understanding. When we feel like we know it all, we stop validating, we stop listening to users, we start designing for ourselves. And here's the hard truth. When confidence becomes certainty, empathy dies. For example, a designer assumes a dashboard layout is obvious because it feels clear to them, but the user, maybe someone older, someone new to digital tools, someone stressed, experiences confusion, hesitation, frustration. That disconnect is created by ego, not lack of skill. Designers aren't gods, we're guides, and a guide must always listen first. Why smart designers fall into the trap? It is important to understand this because the ego trap doesn't come from weakness, it comes from strength. Let's understand this now. First, success breeds overconfidence. When things go well repeatedly, intuition becomes our default compass. Past wins start justifying current assumptions. What used to be let's validate this becomes I already know how this goes. Let's understand this with example. A designer who has crafted successful onboarding flows in previous projects may skip research assuming all users behave the same way. But new users bring different anxieties, goals, and contexts. The old formula may not work anymore. Next, when praise becomes an echo chamber, when everyone applauds your work, managers, peers, clients, your worldview feels validated. You stop questioning if it actually works for users. You start designing to maintain reputation, not to solve problems. For example, a visually stunning UI gets praised on Pinterest and Dribbble, yet real users struggle with contrast, readability, and navigation. Aesthetic applause can hide usability failures. Another reason is when experience masks bias. Experience is powerful, but it also creates blind spots. Patterns you've seen for years feel universal, but they're not. Your preferences quietly become your defaults. Example, you may prefer minimalistic interfaces, but your users may prefer guided workflows, labels, and clear signposts. So what does this mean? It means that your taste is not equal to the user's needs. Ego takes control. This is the final shift. Research becomes a formality. Feedback becomes noise. User struggles become edge cases. And then we wonder why the product doesn't connect. So a big lesson and a reminder. Ego doesn't enter loudly. It enters quietly, through comfort. Now let's talk about consequences. When ego drives design, the damage shows up everywhere. We over-engineer features to showcase skills, not solve problems. We prioritize aesthetics over usability. We dismiss user struggles because they don't match our mental model. We skip validation, trusting our instincts alone. We design for ourselves, projecting our preferences onto everyone else. These mistakes don't start from bad intentions. They start from assuming we are the user. So let's understand what are the real failure point. You fail the moment you believe you represent the user. Your background, your abilities, your mental models, your patterns, they're unique to you. Design becomes hollow when it reflects your world instead of theirs. Imagine designing a fintech app assuming everyone is financially literate, or designing a travel app assuming everyone understands airport codes, or designing a healthcare app assuming everyone is comfortable with technology. These assumptions break real experiences for real people. Ego doesn't just create bad design, it creates inaccessible, exclusionary design. So remember, you are not the user. Your worldview is not reality. Your education, your digital fluency, your cognitive abilities, all of these shape how you experience interfaces. Users come from different worlds, different cultures, capabilities, fears, goals, and limitations. What feels intuitive to you might be overwhelming to them. Also, assumptions kill clarity. Every time something feels obvious, it's a sign you need validation. Obvious is the most dangerous word in design. Remember, research helps replace ego with truth. Research humbles you. It reveals what users truly need, not what you assume they need. True excellence comes from humility, from listening, from stepping back and letting real behavior guide decisions. This is the heart of user experience, not decoration, not aesthetics, but understanding. So now that we've seen how ego silently creeps into our work, how it blinds us, how it disconnects us from the very people we're designing for, the question becomes, how do we break free from this? And that's what this next part is about. This slide, Breaking Free, your empathy toolkit, is not theory. It's your action plan. It's the practical path out of the ego trap. These are the tools that turn confidence into humility, intuition into insight, and assumptions into truth. So let's walk through the toolkit that helps every designer step back, listen deeply, and reconnect with real human behavior. For me, it starts with a simple mindset. Question everything you walk in with. Before beginning any project, pause and ask yourself, what am I assuming here? And what if I'm wrong? Just doing this resets your thinking. It softens your confidence, opens your perspective, and creates room for evidence to guide you instead of instinct. The next practice is almost magical in what it reveals. Watch real people use what you design. There's something humbling about seeing someone hesitate at a button you thought was a perfectly obvious. Observing real behavior, the pauses, the errors, the little workarounds, tells you more than any expert review ever will. You stop designing for imagination and start designing for reality. And then there's something every designer should build into their process. Validate early, validate fast. Don't wait until the design is polished. A 5-minute check with a real user can save weeks of rework. Just asking, show me how you do this, can expose assumptions you didn't even know you had. Another powerful shift is in how you think about personas, not as fictional characters, but as living reflections of real conversations, real patterns, real frustrations and motivations you've gathered from actual users. When personas grow out of evidence, your decisions naturally become more human, more grounded, more honest. And finally, this one is the hardest, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because true growth happens when feedback challenges your instincts. When someone uses your design in a way you never expected. When a user says something that stings a little, instead of resisting it, lean into it. That discomfort is where clarity lives. It's where ego dissolves and empathy expands. These aren't processes, they're habits, quiet practices that reshape the way you see users, the way you interpret behavior, and the way you design products. This is how you break free, not by knowing more, but by listening deeper, observing closer, and being willing to be wrong. And this brings us to the heart of everything we've been talking about. As designers, we're not here to play God. We're not here to create from a place of absolute certainty or to assume that our instincts are universal truths. We're here to guide, and guiding requires humility. It starts with something very simple. Assume less. Every time you feel something is obvious, take a moment. Challenge that feeling. Ask yourself, is this obvious to everyone or just to me? Because your instincts are shaped by your education, your experiences, your habits, and none of those belong to your users. Then comes the next shift. Observe more. Instead of relying on theories or personal taste, let real human behavior drive your decisions. Watch how people actually navigate problems in their own environment. Design shouldn't be a projection of your beliefs. It should be a reflection of their lives. And ultimately, all of this leads to a deeper truth. Design with humility. Because your work only becomes meaningful when it genuinely serves someone else. You're not here to impress peers with clever screens or perfect visual polish. You're here to solve real problems. You're here to remove friction. You're here to understand someone's world and make it just a little easier. That's what a guide does. A guide listens, adjusts, learns, adapts. Great design doesn't come from knowing everything, it comes from knowing how much you don't know and being willing to step back, listen deeply, and let empathy lead the way. The moment ego steps aside, that's the moment great design truly begins. Thank you for being here. If even one idea from today helps you design with more clarity, more empathy, and less ego, then this conversation has done its job. Until next time, keep creating with intention. See you soon.